So many times we have experienced loss and grief. So many times we've experienced separation from divinity. And really, all of this grief and loss we feel is because we have neglected ourselves for so long. And so when we experience that loss or separation from divinity, we feel very alone. We feel sadness. We feel uncared for. We feel abandoned. But it's always in our ability to connect again and to know that there is no separation, there is no loss. So when we see that in the world, or we fear this coming with some physical person or a pet, or maybe it's our home or a country that we're leaving or a place, we're really just seeing this mirror of what's going on within ourselves. Our ability to connect with divinity is dependent on our ability to care for ourselves. So if we neglect ourselves, we experience grief. We experience this suffering and sadness that comes with that aloneness, that lack of connection with all of the cosmos. So, with this connection with ourselves comes this connection to everything, every atom and molecule. And what that feels like is this overwhelming joy and love with everything: the wind, the bamboo, the grass, the trees, and also these people around us, our parents, our grandparents that are getting older, that we see and we say, oh, but they might leave us and then we'll be alone. But that's the story that we've told ourselves. If our grandparents are gone or our parents are gone, then we are orphans, we're alone. And this, of course, is just a story, because really the only way to be alone is when we are not caring for ourselves, because the feeling of divinity being with us is bigger than anything else in the world. That feeling of being fulfilled. The word fulfilled means filled. And what are we filled with? Well, we're filled with this ability to connect with every atom and molecule. And that's joy and peace and freedom. So to prepare, we recognize that we've experienced this over and over. So many lifetimes we have wasted our lives in grief and sadness, thinking that it was something out there, something external to us, something that was missing, that we had no power over. So part of this grief, this anticipation of grief, is that feeling that, and we have no choice, or we have no ability to change it, that they're going to be gone and then we'll be alone, whatever that is. Maybe it's a marriage that's breaking up, or a relationship. They'll be gone and then we'll be alone. So at any point, we can recognize that that feeling of loneliness is really just a reflection of how we care for ourselves. So the best thing we can do is keep that um, self introspection going, that awareness. Okay, I'm feeling grief, I'm feeling fear that someone's going to leave, and to recognize that at that moment, that part of us, the child within us, is so afraid that that is what we're going to do to ourselves. We're going to ignore our own feelings and sacrifice. And that's where the grief starts, is our care for ourselves. So we keep cleaning when we self-introspect, really important to keep looking at ourselves and say, well, why do I feel that? Not to get an answer. It's a memory. Okay, what's the memory? I don't know. And maybe something will come up. So if we experience this grief after someone has passed and it feels overwhelming, we want to keep coming back to this, cleaning with the memory of how many thousands and eons of times that this has happened before, that we have experienced the loss of someone in our lives or something in our life, so that we we never know the connection, what it is specifically that is going to take us from here we are feeling lost and alone to, but to recognize that the amount of time that we've had the suffering happen. So when we think, oh, I clean with that, it might be one little drop in the bucket. So just to keep the self introspection going, to accept the feeling as a message from the child saying, I feel alone. And then at that moment, we can say to ourselves, "Ella, thank you for being here today, in this moment. Thank you. I'm so grateful." And to keep the cleaning going. And I know that it's hard. It's feels sometimes very overwhelming, but just to know that it is something that we can choose to clean. And that's the most important part, is to choose to keep the cleaning going.